Welcome to another Whiteark Bites. And today I wanted to talk about leading change in a global supply chain setting. Now, change is hard at the best of times. In a global supply chain setting, it can become particularly difficult. Some of the reasons for that is you're crossing cultural boundaries, geographical spread, just the sheer number of suppliers or service providers engaged in building out your supply chain. There's lots of systems, processes, people, technologies. There is a lot to consider and there's a lot to bring together when leading change in your supply chain. Now, there are 5 steps that you can follow to help navigate your way through that change. And those steps are: 1, having a vision; 2, building confidence; 3, empowering your people; 4, communicate; and 5, build the right team. Now, if we focus first on having a vision, this is particularly important because, as I said before, there are so many communities and so many stakeholders, governments, service providers, suppliers that make up your supply chain. And it's important that you find a common thread to help galvanize all of those different parties with different interests towards a common cause. Now, without people working towards that common cause, it will be unlikely that you'll be able to meet your objectives. But importantly, what you want to be able to do is bring the right people along the journey with you. Now, without that vision, how do you know whether you're attracting the right people or the right parties to it? And even more so, how do the people that are participating in your supply chain know whether they're actually able to add any value at all? Now, the second element is around building confidence. Confidence takes a battering on the global supply chain setting. We're talking about a lot of environmental impacts. We're talking lots of political instability. With all the moving parts in a supply chain, it's very hard to connect them all. And a lot of the time for people, they get worn down by the amount of effort that they have to undertake to affect positive change. They become change fatigued very easy. And it's important that you're able to build that confidence across the entire supply chain to help it work. And of course, that can be addressed in many ways by making sure that you have, for instance, quick wins in place, or just making sure you have structured plans and making sure that people have the right tools and equipment that are available to them. Now, the next step is empowering your people. Now, this has to be considered in the context of where they are geographically, where they are culturally, politically, what organisation they're in. Empowerment can mean very different things to many different people, and you certainly do need to balance that out. But ultimately, what we're talking about here is making sure people have the right tools and the capacity to be able to execute upon what you're asking for them, and making sure that they've got the plans and that they understand their part in the journey, and making sure that you engage everyone in the process so they understand what their value is in the supply chain. Now, the next step, the 4th step, is about being able to communicate. I've said a number of times here today that there are so many stakeholders, so many people to consider, so many interested parties. We need to consider all the cultural elements, not just of the countries, but of the organisations that people are working for and in. And we need to connect those. And that links back into the vision about why that is so important. But what's important here is that the word said, the tone that is used, and the mode of communication is selected with the utmost importance around making sure that the communication is given so that it can be understood and that so it can be embraced and so that people can actually understand what it is that they need to do. Now, of course, the art of communication is more often than not listening. And this is particularly tricky in a global supply chain, but you need to pay extra attention to this. Listening to what people are saying, listening to people from different cultures, and taking the time to understand what is happening in their environment, not just geographically or the country that they're in, but in their organization. Because by listening, quite often you can come up with very, very good insights and helps you develop proper change processes for the future. But most importantly, people feel like they're part of the process, and people that feel like they're part of the process are more than likely going to accept change and advocate for that change. Now, the 5th step is building the right team. Now, people are the only real competitive advantage in any business. And this is no different in a global supply chain setting. You need the right people in the right roles doing the right things at the right time in the right place. That is business, and we understand that. But it's also about understanding about getting the right values aligned and about making sure people are aligned to the strategy. But what's really, really important to understand here is that with all the different parties in your supply chain, that you work together as if you were one company, as if you were one organization working towards one cause to get to one outcome. There are 5 easy steps that you can follow to help navigate your way through leading change in a global supply chain setting, which are: have a vision, build confidence, empower your people, communicate, and build the right team. Good luck and have fun.